Hello, and this is a video review of the new deck of tarot cards by Doreen Virtue, and they're called Angel Tarot Cards. And basically they are a 100% positive and safe rendition of the traditional tarot deck. So the nice thing about these cards is that they don't actually lose any of the traditional meanings of the traditional tarot cards, but they have much more of a safer kind of feel to them. Okay, so I'll start by showing you what the backs of the cards look like. Okay, and the first thing that you'll notice about this deck is its size. So if you have any of Doreen's other oracle card decks, this deck is basically the same. The cards are the same size as in an oracle deck, so they're slightly larger than your kind of regular traditional tarot cards. So I'll just show you an example. So here's kind of your average tarot card size, and then this is the size of the angel tarot cards, so they're a little bit bigger. And they do have a feel of an oracle deck, and the reason being is if you look at them, they've got like the meaning right on the card right there, like an oracle deck does. So in this way they're perfect for someone who doesn't know a lot about tarot, so someone who's really new and kind of unfamiliar with the traditional meanings. Yeah, so I'll just show you a few images so you can get kind of an idea of what this deck is all about. So it's the artwork is very magical. Like there's lots of unicorns and angels and dragons and stuff like that. So the artwork is very enchanting, and because the cards are a little bit bigger, it actually allows you to kind of get lost in the picture a little bit more than with a smaller card. And my favorite thing about this deck is the way that the court cards are. So here's Page of Earth, which would be Page of Pentacles in a traditional tarot deck, and they have like the kind of characteristics written right at the top, so scholarly, dependable, patient, successful, and then at the bottom they have a meaning. So this one is good news about financial matters, wanting to do something more challenging. So I find normally, like in a traditional tarot deck, sometimes I get a little bit lost when I go to translate the court cards, but with this deck it's pretty easy to interpret them. Okay, so the only thing, well, my main complaint about this deck is its size. So it's a lot, it stacks a lot higher than a normal tarot deck, so it can be kind of awkward to shuffle. It's not the easiest tarot deck to shuffle, that's for sure. But that's really about it. So the cards are a little bit awkward to handle. They're not the easiest to shuffle, but other than that, I don't really have any major complaints. The nice thing about these cards are they're very sturdy. So they are laminated, so they're shiny and glossy. They're they're quite thick, so they can withstand a lot of abuse, that's for sure. So yeah, so I just wanted to reiterate that the messages on these cards do stay the same as a traditional tarot deck. So even though the meanings are kind of more positive, it doesn't really water it down too much. So I'll show you an example. So the Nine of Air, which is Nine of Swords in a traditional deck, and I'll show you the image in the Rider-Waite deck. So as you can see, kind of the overall meaning or vibe of the card is the same. With the Doreen's card, there's a unicorn awake amongst sleeping unicorns. So it's still kind of the same meaning, but it just has more of a positive vibe. It doesn't have that kind of dreadful look about it. So it's a little more uplifting, and you can see how it would be easier to interpret these cards in a much more positive way. So none of these cards are going to scare you at all. And so, okay, so I'll go through the major Arcana cards that Doreen has changed, because there's a few that she's changed the names of, and I'll just show them to you. So the Fool becomes the Dreamer, and it still has the same kind of meaning: a leap of faith, follow your dreams, unexpected opportunities. And the Hierophant becomes Unity. But once again, you know, like a similar image that you would get on a traditional tarot deck, so she hasn't really strayed too far. And Awakening is the Hangman. And death is release. And each major arcana card is represented by an archangel. And balance is temperance. And ego is in place of the devil. And this card says a false sense of entrapment, being overly focused on material things, and negative or fear-based thoughts. So you can really see how these cards, you know, it's easy to interpret them in a way that would be really empowering. And life experience replaces the Tower. And renewal replaces judgment. So my only, really, other than the size of the cards, I'm not nuts about the Suit of Water, and I'll just show you a few cards from the Suit of Water. And my only reasoning is that the cards are quite dark in color, and they're kind of hard to make out the picture. And the mermaids kind of look like corpses or something. They're kind of glowing funny. They look like the undead mermaids or something. So they're kind of funny looking, and this one kind of reminds me of a drag queen or something. But I mean, they're quite pretty. They're attractive. You know, I like them for that reason. They're quite attractive, but they do have kind of a darker, kind of cloudier kind of look to them. So it's not my favorite suit in the whole deck, just for that reason. Yeah, so I'm just going to show you a few more cards just so you get the idea. Fire is the Suit of Wands in this deck. And water replaces cups. And Pentacles is earth. And Swords, of course, is air. I'm just trying to find an air card to show you. So, I mean, you can see as I'm shuffling that each suit is represented by a different color. So, fire is red. All the major arcana cards are kind of a purpley color. And earth is green. Of course, water is blue. And air is also blue, which is kind of funny. I don't know, it's kind of confusing, but as you can see, air instead of swords is represented by unicorns, so it gives it a much more magical look. So yeah, so I highly recommend this deck. I think it's perfect for you know, beginners, someone who's not totally familiar with tarot. And I think it's also for people who work with tarot but find that when they're doing a reading for someone else, you know, it kind of scares them when the more kind of scary images pop up. Then this would be a really good deck to use for that. But I really feel like this deck is really quite a unique interpretation of the tarot, and the artwork is just really quite beautiful, and it would be a nice addition to your tarot collection, even if you have, you know, hundreds of decks, as I do. So I'm always kind of leery when I buy a tarot deck if it's going to be worth it or not, because I already have so many decks and I don't want something that's just kind of a repeat of another deck. But I think if you already have a lot of decks, it's pretty safe to assume that this deck will be very different from your other card decks, and it's definitely worth purchasing.